Welcome to Breaking the Silence, a podcast series from Angels Protection, where we amplify the voices of young mothers of color and the advocates working to ensure they receive the care, dignity, and justice they deserve. I'm your host, Makaila Davis, founder and chairwoman of Angels Protection, Inc., and visiting scholar with the Health Policy and Media Fellowship with the George Washington University School of Nursing. This episode one of our series is where we're focusing on a topic that doesn't nearly get enough attention: short term suicide risk in Black, Indigenous, and people of color adolescent mothers. At Angels Protection, Inc., we see firsthand how many young mothers are navigating unimaginable stress from mental health stigma and partner violence to housing insecurity and systematic neglect, all while raising a child and trying to survive. This series is about listening, learning, and pushing for change. And today's guest is the perfect person to help us start this conversation. So I just want to do a brief introduction of our guest, Dr. Cindy Davis, who is a seasoned leader in social work and public health, currently serving with the melanated group Midwifery Care with decades of experience in teaching, care coordination, and advocacy. She's dedicated to her career to improving outcomes for expectant and new mothers, especially those from underserved communities. She holds a bachelor's in social work, a master's degree, and a PhD in public health, and has worked in both community and academic medical centers for over 30 years. Her background spans child welfare, substance abuse, incarcerated youth, and neonatal discharge planning. She's also developed curricula for clinical teams and faith-based organizations, a certified mental health aid first instructor, and a strong voice for culture, humility, and health equity. Dr. Davis brings deep insight to today's conversation, and we're honored to welcome her to episode one. So I will hand it over to you, Dr. Davis, if you have any words that you want to say.
Thank you so much, Michaela. I appreciate that introduction.
Now, and I appreciate you for being here on this episode with us today. So I kind of just
Absolutely.
want to kick this off and start with how has the intersection of racial identity, age, and motherhood influenced the way that BIPOC adolescent mothers access or are denied mental health support in hospital or social work settings?
I think that one of the first things that we need to look at is the fact that our adolescent, you said our adolescent population, correct?
Yes.
The way that they are viewed, and I don't want to make it like it's an overall one view. However, one of the things that I've come in contact with in working with our youth is they feel so unheard. And when they feel unheard, it makes it harder for them to trust. And when it's harder for them to trust, it's harder to service their needs. When they do come to us with myriad needs, a whole conglomerate of needs, social and emotional needs, family needs, they seem to be more specific in having their needs met before they can even really interact with us. So, one of the main things we have found that is very, very helpful is to just sit and listen sometimes. That's one of our main things. Being heard goes a long way.
No, that's so beautiful. And I really do wholeheartedly believe in that too, just being able to listen to them. So I think that kind of like ties into my next question as well. In your role as a licensed maternal and child health social worker, have you ever
Mhm.
encountered a moment where early intervention have made a life-saving difference for a young mother? And if so, would you be able to walk us through that?
Absolutely. I don't know if you're familiar. There are two different tools that we use when we're working with our adolescent population and our general maternal population during the perinatal time. And one of them is the PHQ-9. So in administering the PHQ-9, I know that the EPDS, the Edinburgh Postnatal Depression Scale, can be used during the prenatal period, but the PHQ-9 assesses the well-being and the mental state for the previous 2 weeks. And I noticed that when we extend that tool to these moms, it captures a lot of information that shows us, it informs the way we are going to provide care for them. And yes, we had one situation when we met a mom, I think she was approximately 18 to 22 weeks in her gestation, very young mom, from a home, multiple siblings, etc. And just um, giving that PHQ-9 and getting those results, the score was very high. And we always look at that one at the end when it says, "Do you think you would be better off not alive?" And she answered yes. That was so impactful because it requires immediate follow-up. And during that immediate follow-up, we were able to walk her through resources. We were able to extend to her a listening ear, empathetic, care. And because of that, she has been coming to her prenatal care from the 18 to 22 week time all the way until now. As a matter of fact, her water just broke yesterday,
Wow.
but we consider that a success story because we captured what we needed to capture at the beginning. She was able to share that. And sometimes it's not always sitting down talking. She filled that out on a piece of paper. So sometimes just meeting them on paper and then coming to them where they are seems to be very, very powerful, especially with swift follow-up like that and resources.
No, I could definitely test that. I think that's really such important points that you made. Like just she filled that out on a piece of paper.
Yep.
Um, and she wasn't feeling like she could convey that out in person or say the
Correct.
words out of her mouth. But that's
Correct.
really how she felt.
Correct.
So, you guys did do that early intervention so you could catch it
Yeah.
early.
Yeah.
So then
And it
you
was a sensitive approach, because then you're bringing it back to them what they did put on paper. So it does require empathy. Yes.
yes. No, I definitely agree with that. Um, which is like tying into like our next question. What
Perfect.
systematic changes, whether in policy, hospital protocols, or community outreach, do you believe are most urgently needed to reduce suicide risk for young mothers of color?
I'm glad you asked that question because one of the things that I find the most helpful sometimes working in a group care setting is very, very, very powerful because when we come into that group, it breaks down the hierarchy that you sometimes experience when you're receiving medical care during pregnancy. And when you go according to the medical model, you're going to go into your prenatal session. You're going to have your 15 minutes with your provider, and then you go home. But when you're in that 15-minute visit, your SDOH, I'm sorry, your social determinants of health, those needs aren't met. You may have had one more question, but I find that in the group care setting, you're among peers, and it actually dismantles the hierarchy. So when I come into that room, I'm not Dr. Davis, I'm just Cindy. I'm just another Black mom who happened to, have a baby as well. But when I'm sharing my story, it needs to be appropriate and it needs to be fitting for the topic of that day. But what is even more impactful is that there are peers there. There are some people there who are having their first baby, and there are some there who've had a baby before. And what we notice is once they begin to interact with one another, they find that they have common needs, common concerns, common problems with the pregnancy, or common joys all at the same time. So they're all around the same gestational age, and that's more powerful and more impactful than any system could ever provide for them. But where the system comes in is if that can carry over into the time when it's time for them to deliver, that they provide that same empathetic and supportive care. So I think that our system needs to dismantle a lot of the hierarchy and allow that patient, that person, that human being to be a part of their own health care and let them have a say so in what's happening to them in their body because they know their body's best, you know?
No, that's amazing. Yeah, and letting them be a part of the process, whether
Yes,
that's clinical or non-clinical,
correct,
community-based services, bringing them those resources and letting them determine what's best for them.
correct.
Um, Even though there's still some things that, like from a clinical approach,
Mhm.
there's some things that still may need to just happen, but letting
Correct,
them know what's happening to them, because
correct,
like you said, they know their body
correct.
best. So yeah, no, that was amazing. And so it kind of like goes into our next question.
Okay.
Many young moms are in crisis and also navigating foster care, intimate partner violence, or housing insecurity. So how do these compounding stressors affect mental health outcomes in your professional view?
It's so funny that you asked that because I have one 19-year-old right now who during the pregnancy was in her placement. But she couldn't stay in that placement because she was going to have the baby. And as much as she wanted to go live with the family member, that just didn't work out. And she ended up needing to find a foster home. And what happened was it took her further away from her group care. And we did everything within our power to connect with her caseworker. We did everything within our power to ensure that she could go to some kind of prenatal care out where she was in her new placement. And she did find a fascinating foster mom to take in her and the baby. But when it came time to deliver, she came all the way back to our facility to deliver because that's where she felt comfortable. So I think that is very important to make the connections. And part of the prenatal care is not just about mom, it's not just about you, and it's not just about this baby. It's about interpersonal violence. It's about taking care of yourself. It's about paying attention to your body. It's about monitoring your blood pressure. It's all about mental health needs during the whole perinatal period, even that fourth trimester, like what is going on with me? My hormones are changing, my mood is changing, what's going on? So all of those impacted, and then systematically working to address all of their needs. And that can be kind of even heavy for the care for the provider. However, that's why it's good to have a plethora of resources. And if I can't help them, I have somebody I can refer them to so that those needs are met. That's vitally important that I network and have resources as well because I don't have all the answers. And I'm not afraid to admit that. And I'm not afraid to tell them, here, I can't do this, but here's somebody who can.
And I think that's really important too, like being that connector,
Hmm.
because providers look like many things. Like
Correct.
providers are not just like providers are doctors, nurses, social workers, people in academia, uh,
Correct.
folks that are putting out the information.
Yep.
So I think it's important that everybody's working together.
Community
And
partners.
yeah,
Yeah.
community partners and
Yeah.
being community within the healthcare system.
Exactly.
Everyone plays a part. The notes that a medical assistant might be drafting
Hmm.
up.
Hmm.
So and everything, like all the different units within the hospital all work together. So
Correct.
it's so important, like we're not working in silos and reaching out,
Correct.
going above and beyond,
Yes.
going to different like nonprofit functions and
Correct.
figuring out what do they do within the community.
Correct.
Um, so that was just
And
such a really like great point that you
yeah,
made.
and can I make one more point on that? It's also important not to downplay any need that they bring because they might be concerned about where am I going to get Pampers from? Where am I going to get baby bottles from? And being able to call that community partner and say, can I stop by your warehouse on my way to work?
Mhm.
And that just feeds into the going above and beyond. And then pack my car up and I'll go on to work. They're coming to a visit today. They can take it home with them. So all of those things are important. Yes.
No, that's so important. I think sometimes what young mothers might be afraid of when asking for resources from organizations is it going to be new? Is
Hmm.
going to be a
Hmm.
new product? Is this going to be a new
Hmm.
bib or a new outfit for my baby? Because I know
Hmm.
sometimes organizations like they'll get a lot of donations,
Correct.
which is great. But one thing,
Correct.
what I could say is different with us, and I made it a mission of ours, is that everything that we give is brand new,
Hmm.
because it just does not feel good, putting
Hmm.
your baby in something that's
Hmm.
not new. Like you'll feel so
Hmm.
much better and more
Correct.
empowered.
Correct.
So I think it's so important that like
Hmm.
as community partners, we do a little bit better with that
Yes.
when
And
it's that
yes,
like donations
I
that
agree. I
trying to
agree.
really push
Yes.
forward getting new items,
Yes.
a new pack and play, a new
Correct.
baby toy. Um,
Absolutely.
and it just will make mom, especially her being so young, she's
Oh, it
already,
makes a world of difference.
yeah. So that's one thing that like I've noticed.
I love that.
But yeah, no, you that was an amazing point that you made there. And not being afraid to go before work and grab what
Correct.
you need to grab for your client,
Correct. Mhm.
because they really need that support.
Correct.
Um, no, that was great. And lastly, what gives you hope when working with adolescent mothers, and what can listeners do to be better allies in addressing this crisis?
The best way for me to answer that and what gives me hope is this conversation right now. The fact that we're even having this conversation, the fact that you mentioned that we shouldn't function in silos because everybody, we all should know what one another is doing so that we can all at some point come together and do it together. Because there is one African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And by that, I mean having this conversation, having more conversations like this, getting together, not being afraid to use our voice to advocate, but not being afraid to give them their voices. So many have been robbed of their own voices that they don't even speak up anymore. So then they are introduced into a setting that says, use your voice. Don't be afraid to speak up. We have an acronym called BRAIN. And it says, we just tell them, use your brain. If they tell you, you need this procedure, you need that procedure, ask, what are the benefits? What are the risks? What are the alternatives? What is my intuition telling me? What is my gut telling me? And then guess what? What if we do nothing? That's using your brain. Speak up for yourself and do it in a respectful way. So, one of our whole sessions is centered on how to have that conversation with your caregiver. So, the fact that we're having this conversation means that we care, and then we take that same care and give it to them so that they can use their voices, so that we're also not robbing them of their voices and allowing them to speak for themselves.
No, I really love that. And I think that's important. And I feel like also too, like a good point is like um searching up like different maternal child health organizations that you could get
Yes,
involved in. Um, and also maybe like your local women's commission.
yes.
Bridging the gap there I think is great. And volunteering. I tell everybody volunteer,
I do
like
it.
give
I
your time
do
back.
it. I
Uh,
do
yeah,
it.
like I'm like a super volunteer. I'm always
Yeah.
volunteering
Yes, I
somewhere.
do it.
But it's just like that was just such a great point you made. And
Mhm.
to be that partner to them that they need.
Yes, absolutely.
Um, so that was really all the questions that I
That's
had, and I appreciate you
good.
for being a part of this. So I just really want to say thank you, Dr. Davis, for your wisdom and decades of service. In conversations
Absolutely.
like this, it moves us one step closer to building systems that truly honor, support, and protect young women of color. So if you're listening and feel moved to take action, visit angelsprotection.org to learn more about our programs for mental health outreach and harm reduction, also to our upcoming programs and initiatives that we're currently planning for this year. And also remember, silence protects systems, not people. And so let's keep breaking it together.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.